Introducing the remarkable archetype, the dangerous gentleman. With a demeanor that commands respect and a hint of potency, he embodies strength tempered by virtue. Though his capabilities could veer towards danger, he channels his power for noble causes, serving others and safeguarding those in need. Rooted in a profound love for both God and humanity, he navigates life with discipline and purpose. In his presence, one witnesses the harmonious blend of power and benevolence, a testament to the true essence of masculinity. Step into the world of the dangerous gentleman, where strength is wielded for righteousness, and discover a captivating embodiment of honor and valor.
Welcome to the Dangerous Gentleman podcast. Yes, I am the Dangerous Gentleman. No, I did not give myself that nickname, but I certainly did earn it. My fellow Americans, today it feels like a good day to be an American. We just had the 2024 presidential election, and Donald Trump came out victorious. And it feels lighter today. I feel an even greater level of pride in being American. I actually feel like for the first time in a long time that I have the freedom to be proud to be an American. Before I jump into a whole bunch of commentary or my thoughts about it, the first thing I want to say is I want to thank God for this. I want to thank God for him bringing us through this, because without him, none of this is possible. Yes, we put in the effort. Yes, a lot of people put in a lot of work. But without God's grace on us, we would not be sitting here right now. Yeah. So, just want to start with that, because that's ultimately where my heart is. But there's been a lot of things that have happened over the last 24 hours. The last 4 years, really. I want to actually go back in time to 2020 election. Me and a bunch of my friends were hanging out at his house, and we were watching the election returns in 2020. We're watching things move along, right? So Trump was already in the White House, and things were looking pretty good. Several states were very much leaning in his direction. He had significant, sizable leads, and we decided that it was time for us to go home. We decided we were going to go to bed and that things were comfortably in hand. Well, lo and behold, we would wake up the next morning and everything had shifted. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of votes had come in overnight, with 90+% of them being in favor of Joe Biden, and everything had switched. And it still took a couple of days, but eventually Joe Biden was declared president and Donald Trump had to leave the White House. And then there was all the stuff that happened around J6 and all the lawsuits and all the shenanigans and all the craziness that happened over the course of the next couple of months. And then Joe Biden's getting sworn into the White House. And then we had the last 4 years where this country's gone off the rails. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. We've gotten even further and further away from our foundations, further and further away from our values as a country and as a people. We veered off of that foundation. We veered off of that solid rock that this country was built on. And people can feel it, right? Everybody feels it. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, nobody feels like they've been on solid ground for the last 4 years. Like, our morals are just out of control. Crime is up. Violent crime is up. Illegal immigration is up. Violent crime committed by illegal immigrants is up. Radical gender ideology is just being pushed everywhere, including to our young children. And everybody knows that that's not okay. But nobody seemed to know or want to do anything about it, because anytime anyone did, there would be this vocal minority that would pound them in the face. They'd cancel them. They would just go after them. Right? They would dox them. People would get fired from their jobs. All this craziness over the last 4 years. And we were all deep down longing for some sanity. But every single time we looked for it, it seemed like it would just slip through our fingers. One more thing would get passed. One judge would make a decision. Someone would get thrown in jail for protesting at an abortion clinic. Right? While thousands of people protest and destroy buildings all across the country, and none of them end up in jail. But some little old lady ends up going to jail because she stood outside of an abortion clinic. We all know that that's not okay. We all know that things were shifting off of the foundations. We could all feel it. We just felt like there was nothing we could do about it. Well, fast forward 4 years and a whole bunch of craziness. At least 11 million illegal immigrants. Fentanyl all across the board, right? 100,000 deaths a year due to fentanyl overdoses. We all know it's a disaster. We all know it's a crisis, but it just feels like there's nothing we can do about it. And every single time we do, it just gets slammed in our face. That tension has been building up in everybody. The tension is building up in young Caucasian males and Hispanic females, Hispanic males, black men, black women, young, old. We could all feel it. We all knew that something had to happen. And then there were still a whole bunch of people who were willing to vote for the same old, same old. We also knew that so much of us believed that this was all the result of some pretty significant shenanigans, I guess you could say, at the last election, where things just didn't seem right. Ballots showing up in the middle of the night, right? Water mains bursting. Barricades being put up, people being shut out from being able to observe election results, poll watchers, like just one thing after another. But then we were gaslighted by the mainstream media and social media, and everyone was telling us, oh, don't believe what you see. That's what they were telling us. You're crazy if you believe what you actually saw. Oh, and here's our reasonable explanation, which no one believes. So here we are now, 4 years later, and Donald Trump keeps saying we got to make this too big to rig. In other words, we know that there's a certain amount that can be fudged. Right? We have to overwhelmingly make our voices heard. We have to make it so big that there's nothing that they can do about it. And then yesterday happened. Well, let's go back again. So 2020, we know that some of this craziness was happening, but it was being throttled on social media. Right? It wasn't coming out on Twitter because Twitter was hiding it. Then Elon Musk buys Twitter. And he starts to release all the information about things that are going on. Right? This year, the thing that I noticed yesterday, and even starting over the last couple of weeks, as all these little things, these little inerrancies, these little things that just didn't quite add up that were happening across the country in different voting places, with the voting machines all of a sudden not working, poll watchers being refused from their polling places, lines being cut off, weird ballots being counted and not being counted. Every single time it happened, somebody posted it on Twitter. And because Elon Musk owned Twitter, now we have a paper trail. None of it wasn't being censored, and people were checking it. It wasn't like they just believed it randomly. They're like, oh, well, we saw that and we saw that. And then they checked it. So they couldn't hide it anymore. It couldn't be hidden. There was only so much they could do. And here they are trotting out Kamala Harris, who everybody knows is a not very good candidate. Like, nobody really wants her. But because she's the one that's been appointed, they're all gonna vote for her, and they're all gonna promote her, and they're all gonna push her because they just don't want Donald Trump. So then yesterday happened. And there were mixed reviews about the voter turnout, which way it was gonna go, but we did know that the early voting had shifted significantly to the Republican side of things, right? By, in some places, 8 to 10 point increases in the early voting going Republican. So that looked positive, right? So polls started to close, and then early on, there wasn't a whole lot of any surprises, right? But there were some stuff there was a lot of crazy stuff. If you followed, there was a lot on Twitter. There were some really shady things that were going on in Pennsylvania. And I knew, like, I'm not the only one. There were a lot of people who were like, Pennsylvania is going to be a major, major place to watch. So people were watching, and every single time something happened, somebody was there reporting it, filing a lawsuit, making sure that nothing was staying in the dark. So results started to pour in. Again, no surprises. Places like Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio were going towards Donald Trump. New York, New Jersey, D.C., Illinois were going towards Kamala. Florida drops in, and of course, it went majorly for Trump. Now, maybe we need to get Ron DeSantis in charge of the election system in this country, because the way Florida ran its elections was unparalleled. Like, one of the top 5 largest states in the country had 90+% of its ballots counted within the first 2 hours, and they knew the results. If they can do that, why can't all these other little smaller states do that? Makes you wonder. So I'm throwing it out there. Make Ron DeSantis in charge of elections. He did something right. But anyway, results started to come in. Georgia's is leaning towards Trump, but it's kind of back and forth a little bit. Virginia, back and forth a little bit. North Carolina, right? I'm watching the results. And this time around, I have decided that I am not going to go to bed until I know. Because last time I went to bed and then I woke up and everything was changed. So I wasn't going to go to bed. But I did decide to go to a Bible study. I wasn't going to just sit there and stare at my phone for 6 hours or however long it was. I took a break and I went to a Bible study. I came home, pulled up the election stream that I was watching. And just we're watching, and Pennsylvania's kind of going back and forth, and Michigan's kind of generally trending Democrat, but they're closing the gap. Wisconsin, some of these places, it's kind of back and forth. But it's really starting to look. And then Donald Trump starts to pull ahead in Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin. And we're like, whoa, hold on a second. If this trend continues, he's got this, right? And some of the Midwest states started to come in and really started to look favorable. And there were some people that I were listening to that were getting really close to thinking about calling Pennsylvania for Trump. And then all of a sudden it happened. I don't remember what time it was. It was maybe 10 o'clock our time. Somebody posts a video of a bunch of semi-trucks, big box trucks, driving in to a Pittsburgh or Philadelphia polling station. And my heart literally sank, and I went, oh shit, here it goes. Because Trump had a fairly substantial lead there, 100,000 votes or something like that. And then all of a sudden this happened, right? And then because this wasn't happening in silence, this wasn't happening in darkness this time, all of a sudden it's popping up on Twitter, it's popping up on Facebook, it's popping up on social media. The cheat was in. That's my opinion. I'm not saying it was for sure, but the cheat was, that's what I think is that the cheat was in. And then they realized that everybody was watching this time. And no one was going to let them get away with it this time. They weren't going to let that happen again. And I don't know if they stopped. I don't know if they aborted their plan. I don't know what happened in Pennsylvania. But it was about an hour later that some people started to call Pennsylvania for Trump because the lead was too insurmountable with the number of votes being cast. And I was like, wait a second, what about all the trucks? When do all those votes start to get counted? When do we see that big spike like what happened in 2020? But they got caught. Again, my opinion. I don't know that for sure, but my speculation is that because none of this was going to happen in darkness again, they stopped it. And then, like I said, then they called Pennsylvania for Trump. Then they called Maine for Trump. And then they called Alaska for Trump. And that was it. That was 270. And we all breathed. And we knew, or we had a really good idea at that point, right? One quick thing. I just actually learned this today about Pennsylvania. The difference in Pennsylvania is like, I think it's 150,000 votes or something like that. Let me show you a story about Pennsylvania and one of the big reasons why Pennsylvania flipped. Earlier this year, the state of Pennsylvania jailed an Amish person for selling raw milk. They put them in jail for selling raw milk. Now, if you know anything about the Amish, they're generally not political. They don't vote in elections, generally speaking. Well, on election day and up to election day, all these pictures started coming out of these Amish buggies with these guys with these big beards and the women in the old-fashioned dresses driving their Amish buggies with giant Trump flags and American flags hanging off the back. Just lines and lines and lines of them going to polling stations to vote for the first time. Well over 100,000 Amish people voted for the first time, and they voted close to 100% for Donald Trump. Now, if that's not a story of what this election was all about, I don't know what is. Pretty wild, right? And so I sat there watching. And so now they've called Pennsylvania and we're at 270. And the sense of relief started to wash over me. And then another news agency was like, it's over, guys. It's over. And then another agency is like, you guys, we gotta call Pennsylvania. Wisconsin went for Trump. Michigan went for Trump. Pennsylvania went for Trump. All the swing states had gone for Trump so far. Yes, we're still counting. They're still counting in Arizona, which Arizona, get your shit together. Jeez, how long does it take? I guess that's what happens when we all know what happened in Arizona last time around. All kinds of shenanigans in Maricopa County. And then they elected the Secretary of State who was in charge of the election last time. They elected her to governor. Elected her. Anyway, as of right now, Arizona still has like only about 70% of its votes counted. And there's a major Senate seat that's up for grabs there that we're waiting for. But it's looking like it's leaning towards Trump. Nevada, another swing state. Trump's way ahead. All the swing states. Guess what else happened? Miami-Dade County. Democrat stronghold in Florida. Full of Cuban and Latino and Hispanic people. Went for Trump by like 10 points or something. Maricopa County. In the last election where all the shenanigans happened this year, As of the last time I checked anyway, Trump was up by several points in Maricopa County, which is where Phoenix is. Phoenix, Arizona. Again, large metropolitan area, and those generally go Democrat. It went Republican so far, right? The Hispanic vote went for Trump all across this country. Every swing state, they all went for Trump. Why? Because the American people are ready to get back to their foundation. They are ready to get back to what makes America great. I'm not a big slogan person, but MAGA, make America great again. That doesn't mean that we're going to do everything exactly the same, right? But we're going to restore American excellence now. And we have that opportunity because the people made it too big to rig. They came out in droves. Now, here's another little bit of speculation. So there's this graph going around these days that shows the amount of people, the amount of Democrats that voted in each of the last 4 elections compared to the amount of Republicans. And it's around 60 to 65 million in 2024. It's 65 million. In 2016, about the same. In 2012, it's about the same. And then you look at 2020, and they showed the graph, same graph, but the number of Democrat voters in 2020 was 81 million people voted for Joe Biden. And everyone's pointing at that on the left. They're like, see, we just didn't get the turnout. What they don't realize that they're doing is they're pointing out where they cheated. Again, my speculation. So why would it be like Barack Obama gets 60 to 65 million votes? Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, 60, 65 million votes. Joe Biden, 81 million votes. Kamala Harris, back down to 60 to 65 million votes. Where did those other 16 million votes come from before, and where did they go this time? I think they got caught. I think, well, they didn't get caught, but they knew they had eyes on. There was a paper trail. Why? Because Elon Musk bought Twitter. Why? Because the American people stood up. I'm actually happy that Donald Trump lost in 2020, right? Because if he had won in 2020, the American people wouldn't have gotten to where they are now. We wouldn't have had the last 4 years to compare what America could be with what America had become, right? It exposed the media lies and corruption. It exposed the radical agenda of the left, of the liberal media, how they were in cahoots with each other. It exposed all of that corruption, and it rose the boiling point up for the American people to where they were ready for something else. And we are ready for something else. And now we've got Donald Trump, president. We've got Robert Kennedy Jr. to fix the healthcare system. We've got Elon Musk and Ron Paul, who are going to work to try to make the government more efficient. We've got Tulsi Gabbard on board. We've got Joe Rogan endorsing the whole thing. We've got Dana White, badass, owner of the UFC. All these people are on board. There is a coalition, unlike Vivek Ramaswamy, J.D. Vance. It literally, I watched Trump's victory speech and it was like watching the Avengers. I was like, here we go. And again, this is not me putting everything on them. These guys, with this, the way things are, we have a chance. Right? We have been battling uphill as men and as people who are trying to restore values, and as people who want to make America what it can be. We have been battling uphill. We have been fighting the media. We have been fighting the government. We have been fighting the establishment for the last 4 years. And now we have the establishment, but we have to keep fighting. We can't let them get complacent. We can't get complacent and think that they're going to fix it all. It's up to us. But now I feel like this gives us a fighting chance. So now the work is up to us. But that work is going to count. That work is going to mean something. So make it count. And everyone's calling for unity. Great. Yes, we need to be united and we need to come together as a country. But guess what? Today and for the next several days, I'm going to enjoy this win. I'm going to celebrate it. I'm going to walk around with a big old smile on my face. And I'm going to be like, yeah, it's good to be an American today. I'm proud to be an American today. It's a good day. And then next week, I'll be like, hey guys, come on. Come on, let's all go together. But today I'm going to celebrate a little bit. We deserve it. You deserve it. All of us deserve it. To God be the glory. He orchestrated all of this. He's the one that put Elon Musk, and he put all these different people together. Now, I'm not saying that this is my endorsement of all of these characters as incredible Christian men, but God uses anyone and everyone to accomplish his will. And that's what he's doing right now. And we have a chance. I want to thank all the people who have listened to my podcast. I had one of my shorts, one of my little reels that popped out, 3 times as many views as anyone I've ever dropped before. I had a whole long list of comments, whole long list of likes, and a bunch of people subscribed. So I want to thank you, all those who liked and commented and subscribed. And I want to ask you to do the same thing with this one. If you like what I have to say, or even if you don't like what I have to say, if I made you laugh, if I made you think a little bit, if I sound a little bit crazy, if I gave you some information that maybe you didn't have before, like the Amish, my gosh, I'm never going to forget that story. If any of that brought any benefit to your life, I would appreciate it if you would like the video, comment on the video, share the video with your friends, and check out my links in the description down below. There's an offer down there for some information from some stuff from me that I think will really help you out. So, thank you, and good night from the Dangerous Gentleman.
So if you like this content, please give it a rating, a review, and share it with your friends. Also, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me and what I'm all about and what I can maybe do for you, check out my website at thedangerousgentleman.org. That's thedangerousgentleman.org. Thank you for listening.